Those depending on the dollar are being robbed by central banks and those that receive the newly printed money first. If the business is unsatisfactory, it's not delivering good goods or services to people, people will abstain from doing business. It's an arbitrary redistribution of wealth or property from one group to another. So they're diluting the property rights of dollar holders. Anyone depending on the dollar to store its value is being victimized, and those getting access to the freshly produced or printed money first are the victimizers. They're the ones actually extracting wealth from that group. And this is especially abhorrent because if you think who depends on the dollar to store its value the most, the poor, those living on fixed income, pensioners, retirees, right? People living paycheck to paycheck. These are the people being stolen from. So I'm not going to make a claim about intent. There's a lot of arguments about, oh no, central banking, they don't mean to be doing what they're doing. They think they're doing what's in everyone's best interest. Fine, I'll accept the argument. But mechanically, those depending on the dollar are being robbed by central banks and those that receive the newly printed money first. Money, the store value function of money is compromised, which is what's happening when we inflict inflation, that the dollar's not holding its value over time. Market actors are smart, right? They're going to move into a reliably scarce asset. The most predominant store value in the world today are stocks, frankly. So stocks, real estate, all these things that are reliably scarce in an inflationary environment become store value assets. So people that hold those assets as a larger percentage of their total net worth will benefit at the expense of those relying on dollars to hold their value. So if you think about more dollars chasing the same amount of stuff, it's kind of the simple way to think about it. This implies higher home prices. And it's not a consequence of supply and demand in the marketplace per se. It's just that diminished unit. I like to say central banking and the fiat currency complex is as clear as mud and twice as dirty.
Nice.
So it's very confounding to say the least. But essentially, the government is issuing new debt, right, which the Federal Reserve is buying. So they're injecting dollars into the economy that way. It's become more exotic recently, where the Fed's actually spinning up special purpose vehicles to buy corporate debt directly. I think equities as well. And so what's happening is there's this confiscation of wealth taking place, and then the proceeds are being doled out arbitrarily. So you could think of the Fed or government beneficiaries of Fed policy as picking winners and losers. So this is antithetical to capitalism, right? Which capitalism is much more Darwinian, right? Survival of the fittest. If the business is producing profits and satisfying wants for people, then people will pay for it voluntarily, and that business will grow. If the business is unsatisfactory, it's not delivering good goods or services to people, people will abstain from doing business with that entity, and it will shrink and fail. And when that business fails, its capital will be reassimilated into the marketplace and put to higher and best use. That's what capitalism does. But when you have this arbitrary avenue of confiscation and wealth redistribution, it stymies that evolutionary impulse that capitalism gives us. So you end up with zombie companies, right? And it's funny that they use that term zombie, which is, I had a good conversation with a guy about this, how this has entered the modern mythology or lexicon, interestingly, right after 1971, which is when we went off the gold standard. The term zombie became much more widely used. But zombie companies are that. They're loss-producing enterprises. They're not satisfying anyone's wants, but they're kept on life support by central bank policy. So we have central bankers printing money to harvest the productive surplus of the economy, stealing from the productive economy, and then doling it out to these certain entities that are producing losses and keeping them alive. So it's very polluting in that way, if you will. It's toxifying to the Darwinian process, and I think that's why it degrades everything that's downstream from economics, like politics and culture, et cetera.